my goodness, and the Acting Out Theater Troupe, that's been just such a blessing. My goodness. And Fred and Georgie for jumping in to be ushers. Thank you. It is a gift to be able to have so many participate in worship. If you were expecting the Kings this Sunday, come next Sunday. We're going to do Epiphany next Sunday. We're saving it as a special treat. But I did want to offer this a gift to you as a gift that was given to me. This scripture reading, this was Jesus talking about the kingdom of heaven, God's kingdom. And I've needed that perhaps this week more than others, when all of a sudden war, death, sickness, for some reason, felt just a little too close. Jesus would often speak in story. Parable, another word for it is story. Eugene Peterson took that word and just used story. And I love his translation in the Message, because he would say, Jesus was never without a story. And whoever he spoke to, he would adjust his story so they could understand it. Wherever they were in their education or in their maturity or in their spiritual journey, he would take a story and minister right to them. Some of you have been asking, right now my current studies are focused on stories. And it's because of how Jesus used story. He's used story for healing, he used it for mission, he used it for evangelism. It was everywhere. So, a story for you. I had to gather a number of experts in the field and have them help me with my studies. And it was called a discovery group or a focus group. And part of the exercise was in leading them through some questions to help design some sort of way of teaching storytelling to churches. You all are experts, by the way. We have some wonderful coaches, and you come and you tell stories. And you already know that, but not everywhere does. So this group gathered together from all over the state. There were 7 of us. Well, I was 8. And there were storytellers, there were pastors, there were educators. And we started this process of talking about how this would look. How do you teach storytelling? How do you inspire interest in it and go about it? And we worked hard on this for 2 hours. And this was all in the abstract. It was, trying to throw out ideas and make it work. And we were getting pretty tired. It was fun, but it was all theoretical. When you kind of talk outside something that doesn't exist, mapping out these plans. So I think we were also on a sugar low because I had just finished cooking an apple crisp. And so that was like you could smell that in the air and just waiting for the timer to go so we could eat. And Renee, now I need to tell you about Renee. Do some of you know Renee? Have I talked about her before? Aww. So Renee is my mentor. Renee, I have known her for over 30 years. She's one of my ones. This is why I'm here, is because of Renee. So Renee came and helped me with this focus study group. And she just piped up. So would anyone like to hear a story? And everybody, all of a sudden, there was these grins, and people would turn their body to her, because it was like we were reading from the cookbook and not eating the food. And so she obviously suddenly just served up the food. Would you like to hear a story? And we were like, yes. So it was beautiful. She just lifted that up. Renee, when I first met her, she had come into my life as our youth group director. And then she was my Sunday school teacher. And then I knew her as my pastor and spiritual director. She's ordained, she's an ordained minister, but her specific calling is to children and youth ministry. And that has been her calling. And she just retired this past year. So her storytelling has been with me since I was 13. So it's been a long time. So when Renee asks, do you want to hear a story? It's all of a sudden she whips this magic into the room. And we were all exhausted being these objective observers trying to organize theoretical thoughts. And when you introduce a story, you become an active participant, an enchanted participant. You get pulled right in. So Renee, she started out saying, well, I went and saw Ashley. And you have to understand, Ashley is this amazing athlete. She had such a sparkle in life and with others. But then lymphoma came, and she had been struggling for months, with the sickness, with the chemo, with the fears, all of it. And Renee said, I went to go see her in the hospital, and she looked so worn out and tired. And then I asked Ashley, do you want to hear a story? And Ashley leaned in. And I tell you, I told her this story, and I watched her straighten right up. I watched her face relax. I watched a smile come into her face. And the story was such that she made a bracelet after. And she told me she wore that bracelet every day that saw her through the rest of her treatments until she rang that bell. She kept wearing that bracelet in the days of recovery that followed. Then Renee said, do you want to hear the story? I told her. And we were like, yes! So she pulled out this story. It's a Jewish wisdom story. I take it from the Talmud, and the Talmud is a collection of centuries, of thousands of rabbis who take the scripture and reflect on it, and they have their own stories that unfold from it. So she said, well, King Solomon, now he was known for his wisdom, but King Solomon had reached a point in his days where the worries that came up just grabbed a hold of him and dragged him down. Whenever there was something good that would happen, he would just be afraid of that good passing away. And when something bad would happen, he would see that and focus on it, and he would just fear that awful would just follow him day after day after day. So King Solomon was living with an anxious dread. He was living with a sadness, living with a grief. And so he went to his advisor, Benaiah. And he told Benaiah, life is too heavy. Life is so hard right now. He said, but I had a dream the other night. I had a dream that there was a ring. There was a ring that I could wear, and this ring would give me the power to see through these days. This ring in my dream was one that would make happy men sad and sad men happy, but in the both there was a peace. Benaiah, can you help me find this ring? And I need it 6 months from now, because we're going to celebrate Sukkoth, and that's when we celebrate our time of being in the wilderness. I need that ring to get me through the wilderness. Benaiah, can you go find that ring? So Benaiah was beloved advisor, and he loved his king, and so yes, I'll go find this ring. So Benaiah went in search of the ring, and he went to Damascus, and he went to Tyre, and he went in search of this ring to all these jewelers, asking all these other wise men, asking, do you have a ring? Do you have a ring that would make happy men sad, sad men happy, that would grant an overall peace? Do you know of this ring? Nobody knew of this ring. They thought he was crazy for even asking. Days went by, and weeks went by, and months went by, and Benaiah kept at it. He kept asking. And all the while, his own anxiousness was growing because he didn't know how he was going to help his beloved king. Finally, the night before the festival was to start, he was again once more in prayer to God, desperate. God, show me how to find this ring, how to give this peace to my king. He got up from his prayers and he walked into the town late at night, and he encountered an old man who was just closing up for the day. He had trinkets and rings and necklaces, and so Benaiah just thought he'd try. And he explained the ring. So King Solomon's looking for this ring to grant him a peace. A ring that he said would give him a peace that would surpass joy, that would surpass sadness, that would conquer the fears and anxieties that he carried in his heart. Do you know of such a ring? Strange enough, that old man just pondered for a moment. And then without speaking, he walked back into his house. And when he came back out, he was carrying this ring with an engraving tool, and Benaiah watched as he worked the ring and worked the ring and worked the ring. He finished and gave it to Benaiah. Benaiah looked at the ring, and his heart started to fill with hope. He saw the writing on the ring, and his face broke into a smile. He saw the ring, and he knew at once this was what King Solomon was looking for. He ran to the palace. He ran, and he pounded on the king's door, waking him up. I found the ring, I found the ring, I found the ring. He gave it to his king, and Solomon looked at it. And he started to cry, for all his happiness vanished. All his sadness vanished. He found a peace fill his soul. It was the ring that answered everything. And on that ring were the words, "This too shall pass. This too shall pass." For those that live in the moments of pure joy, how much more tender is it to hold on to the gift that this too shall pass? For those that live with such the heavy burdens of this day, to hold on to that hope, to feel that lightness, that with God's grace, this too shall pass. This is a wisdom. Renee said that Ashley put that on her bracelet, "This too shall pass." And it was one she kept looking to, when those treatments got just too much. And it was one more day in bed, feeling sick. She could just hang on to that gift. This is a season where we can hold on to the preciousness of life through the grace of God that we've been given in Jesus, that there is a place where God's love meets us in the most desperate of times and in the most joyous of times. An amazing gift. You have beloved on your heart, and we have time, and I think it's important to make this time. Beloved ones that you've been praying for, who need to be reminded of God's constant, steadfast love, who may need to hear that wisdom of this too shall pass.